Hey everyone! Now, keeping ants is definitely not hard per se, but it can be kind of challenging for to maintain your hard work and for keeping them, because they are pretty high maintenance and you need to do a lot of research. So today I've listed a bunch of problems that are really common among beginner ant keepers. Now these are the most common ones I've seen talked about on ant forums, and also the deadliest ones to your ants. Alright, let's get started. Now, the first problem that I've seen a lot is when people just, they catch their queens, they bring them home in like a test tube setup, and then they just disturb them over and over. Like, every day just pick it up, flip it over, look at the queen, and that is not good for the queen. Alright, first of all, after you find your queen and, you put them in the test tube setup, then all you gotta do is just leave them in like a dark place. Whoa! It almost fell down there. All you gotta do is leave them in a dark place, like a closet or a shelf, and you can just leave them. They don't need any food, and as long as your test tube setup is done correctly with moisture. I actually provided a link on how to make a test tube setup in the description below, so if you don't know already, check that out. But basically, if you've done everything right, they don't need anything until they have their first workers. You can feed your queen a little bit of honey before she starts, egg producing, but there's really no need. I mean, it is a little bit helpful, but again, it's not necessary. I get it that like a lot of new people, beginners, are super excited when they find their first queen, but just really don't disturb them until they have workers. Then you'll have plenty of things to observe. I mean, they don't really do anything until they have the first workers anyways.
Moisture is super important, maybe the most important thing when you're keeping ants, because they require moisture for their larvae and their brood, to develop properly. Even if their brood grows and you don't have enough moisture, you'll just end up with dead workers. Like, once they hatch, they'll already be dead and deformed. Trust me, I've actually experienced this problem firsthand. With my first colony, I moved them to a setup without realizing that they needed additional moisture, because it was a plastic setup, right? And I sprayed water in there daily, but I didn't realize that because it was plastic, almost none of that moisture actually stayed. It just evaporated and left the setup, and my first colony actually ended up dying. And it was Lacey's alien's colony, and I did learn from my mistakes, and since then I have not lost a colony to lack of moisture. So keep in mind when you are building your own formicarium that it needs to have a way to apply moisture. So if it's made of Ytong or something that absorbs water, you can just have a hydration system where you pipette water into there. Or if it's like a test tube setup, then you can just use cotton. And if you are buying a formicarium, most professional formicariums out there will definitely have their own moisture systems, right? But if you're not sure, just ask the person you're buying it from how you moisturize the nest. So yeah, to recap, moisture is super important. This problem is also super common when you provide a large formicarium like this one, or actually this one's pretty small, but if you do provide a formicarium for your founding queen when you only have a queen, that is, in my opinion, a big mistake, and it is a mistake I have done before. With this colony, in fact, the Camponotus colony, I just let the queen into the haven by herself, and while yes, the colony is successful now, they do have a large garbage dump, as you can kind of see in this picture on the bottom left. And that is definitely one of the problems of having too much space. They'll just use most of the extra space as garbage. Now, remember, ants really don't need too much space. Honestly, I would rather provide not enough space than too much space. As for moving your colony once it's gotten a few workers into a larger formicarium, remember that the only time you really need to move your colony out of the test tube is when it becomes impossible or really difficult to feed them and to maintain the test tube without having a bunch of escapees. As for moving them from formicarium to formicarium, the point I usually start considering like moving a colony is when they start, being all over the glass to the point where you can't even see inside. If you do give your colony too much space, or if your queen is already in a formicarium by herself, then I don't recommend moving them, because moving them will just stress them out more, and as you all know, stress is terrible for your colony. So yeah, this is like the lesser of two evils if you had to choose between moving your colony when it's still young and between having too much space. Believe it or not, ant colonies are just like bears. They need to hibernate during the winter too. Although actually bears don't really hibernate. Yeah, I think I've read somewhere like in a book that bears don't. Let me look that up. Wait, I got this. Yeah, I told you guys. Alright, so bears don't really hibernate. Yeah, I knew I read about that somewhere. Science. Anyways, so yes, ants do need to hibernate, and you need to pop them probably into your fridge for around 3 months, between usually November, December, and ends in like February to March. So basically what this does is it gives your ant colony time to rest, time to stop producing brood, and this will cause increased activity during the summer and spring. Again, this is a problem that I have done myself. I actually didn't hibernate my Campeonis modoc colony properly last year. What I did is I put them into like the basement, but it wasn't nearly cold enough for them. It needs to be around 6 to 8 degrees. That's my range, that's good. Actually, like any temperature above 0 and below 10 is fine, although 6 to 8 degrees Celsius is my preferred range. So, don't be lazy on this one. I know it's kind of weird to have ant colonies in your fridge, but if you really can't put them in your fridge and you have a garage or something, measure it with the accurate thermometer to make sure it's suitable. And again, use some common sense. If your broken thermometer is telling you that the room is -5 degrees, when you don't even feel like a tiny bit of chill, then it's probably broken. Like, if it doesn't feel cold to you, then it's probably not cold enough for your ants to hibernate in. Okay then, moving on. If you didn't read that previous 1 second of title screen thingy, then don't worry about it. What this section basically is about is when, after waking your ants up for hibernation, they're going to be really groggy and sleepy. And so if they seem all crumpled up and not moving at all, don't worry, they're probably not dead. Just wait for them to warm up. Like, don't immediately throw them into the trash. Now, obviously, if they don't warm up after a few days, then they've probably been hibernated at too cold temperatures and they're actually dead. But that is rarely the case. Usually it's just that they're still sleepy and not fully woken up yet. So yeah, definitely wait a few days before throwing out your seemingly dead hibernated ants. Alright, well that covers the last point in this video. Thank you all for watching. Well, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, then please subscribe so you can be notified whenever I post new videos. And if you have any feedback, your feedback is welcome in the comments down below. See ya!